The Pacific plate is pushing to the west at 3 inches a year, being forced under the Asian plate, and today causing a massive jolt on the seabed that triggered the tsunami.
The fault has broken along a line hundreds of kilometres long, tens of kilometres wide, and all that amount of land has suddenly moved by several metres. That's an enormous amount of movement, it's an enormous amount of energy.
The tsunami struck Japan first, but while the sea is overwhelming the Japanese coast, other waves are radiating across the Pacific. Now, this is the forecast for where the tsunami will spread across the Pacific and by when. Already it's hit Taiwan, but caused no damage. New Zealand has also downgraded the threat, but the big unknown is the potential impact on the dozens of very low-lying islands right in the middle of the ocean. For a tiny island nation like Tuvalu, this could be devastating. Most of the land is only 3 or 4 meters above sea level. For many people, these are very anxious times. Meanwhile, in Japan, every image has the power to shock. Here, a giant whirlpool out at sea, a small boat caught in the vortex. And the crisis is still unfolding. David Shookman, BBC News.
Well, the news of the earthquake and the images have spread quickly around the world via social networking websites. Mark Worthington has more on this.
The terrifying power of an earthquake filmed by those fearing for their lives. Within minutes of the earth beginning to shake, the first eyewitness videos were appearing online. In a country where cameras are commonplace, the quake appeared to be recorded as it unfolded, even as people rushed to safety. In Tokyo, the big one has long been expected. Some seemed to fear this was it.
Outside. This is like the real thing. This is the real thing.
Inside shaken homes, the noise almost deafening, furniture toppling as the structures swayed.
皆さん今東京で結構な震度、結構な地震がありました。
This man announcing on YouTube that an earthquake had just struck. In this supermarket, workers struggled to stop the shelves from collapsing. Rushing outside, the streets were lined with stunned people, frozen with fear. And as phones failed, they turned to the internet. Twitter reported more than 1,000 tweets a minute from Tokyo. In coastal areas, the chilling sound of a tsunami alert was soon ringing out, and exactly what happened in the places it hit is still emerging. Mark Worthington, BBC News.
We'll have the headlines in a moment. First, let's have a look again at all those events in Japan so far.
Part of the ceiling of the terminal building fell.
The white tsunami waves moving extremely rapidly upstream.
In Yamada town, due to tsunami, there's been many deaths.
As of 7 p.m., the full extent of the damage is still not known.
People near the coast are advised to evacuate and try to go to the upper areas of the building.
Obviously, someone inside that building waving a white towel, seeking help.
The whole village was washed away in tsunami, and seems that there is a large damage, and the police are now checking the situation.
It is the biggest earthquake to hit Japan since instrument records began, and now the tsunami wreaks havoc across big parts of the country. Hundreds of people are dead. This is World Have Your Say. Welcome, I'm Peter Dobby. Hundreds of thousands are said to be on the streets of Japan right now. There are aftershocks. Cars, buildings, ships washed away on a wall of water and sludge. This is World Have Your Say. Now we'll talk with some of you in just a moment in Tokyo, Yokohama and Honolulu in just a second. First, the main developments this hour. You just knew this was the big one. That was a comment from one resident of Tokyo talking to the BBC today, describing the 8.9 magnitude quake that hit at 2:45 in the afternoon. The tsunami warning now extends across the entire Pacific region. And there are real fears that the wave, or waves, could be higher than some of the islands in its path. Mike Wooldridge now with the very latest.
The tsunami triggered by the earthquake sweeping towards land from the epicenter, about to wreak havoc along the coastline. It's now being described as the biggest earthquake in magnitude ever to hit Japan. In the tsunami's destructive path, cars, boats, even buildings, some on fire, debris of all kinds. The waves of muddy water broke over embankments, taking everything with them. And then they went into reverse, sweeping debris back out towards the sea. Here a boat in a harbour finds itself tossed about in a whirlpool created by the earthquake. The moment the earthquake struck, 2:46 in the afternoon, local time in Japan. This is the local government office in the city of Sendai. This the offices of Japan's public broadcaster in the same city. In this supermarket, staff even try in vain to prevent items falling off the shelves. There were several powerful aftershocks within the hour. In a country all too used to earthquakes, the shock at the magnitude of this one all too obvious as people spilled out onto the streets of Japan's cities and tried to comfort one another.
Walking into the office from the balcony from a phone call, and somebody said quake, then it really kicked in big time. And we didn't wait around too long before we all headed for the stairs and out of the building.
We're on the 3rd floor, so we felt quite a big shake, and then everybody was evacuated. And I work in the downtown area of the city, so most people were evacuated and just on the streets, and all the electricity and gas and water have been turned off.
An oil refinery burns out of control just outside the capital. Other refineries have been shut down. Countless fires have been triggered by the earthquake. As yet, no one's even begun to assess the economic cost of the disaster.
I offer my